My best friend, we'll call her Maggie, and I met in freshman year of college. We are now roommates and moved in together 2 years ago. In 2015, my best friend spent spring break a couple states away and matched with a guy on Tinder. When she came back to campus, she immediately told me about him and how amazing he was and how they only went out to dinner once. This was obviously a lie, but that they were talking 24/7. I got super excited and asked to see a pic. That was the only picture of him that she's ever shown me. Over the past 5 years, he's literally been her whole world. She talks about him constantly. She always has her nose in her phone. She gets clingy when he takes too long to text back. She's cried to me a few times because she's looked on his social media and seen he was around other girls. My roommate doesn't have social media herself. I had asked a few times why they never met up again, and she said that they're both too busy and don't have the money for the trip. I even told her that he could stay with us and that would save some money. He sent presents and even flowers on Valentine's Day every year. They've basically been dating this whole time. So yesterday, my roommate picked up his shift at work and was gone. I get a knock on our door and I open it to a guy. He says hi, and I give a confused hi, and then he barges in and scoops me up into a hug. He starts saying, "I thought you were working. I was hoping your roommate was here so I could surprise you when you got back." And I am so confused. I immediately get down and back away and let him know that I have absolutely no clue what he's talking about. My brain can't even process what's happening. Then he looks confused and says, "Maggie?" And I'm like, "No, that's my roommate." My roommate and I look nothing alike, so I'm even more confused. Then something kind of clicks and I think, oh my God, is this the guy she's been dating? So I say, "Wait, are you Adam?" And he gives me a very slow yes. And I get excited and say, "Oh my God, I bet Maggie is going to flip out. I can't believe you're here." His demeanor completely changes. He asks me what I'm talking about. "I'm Maggie?" And I tell him, "No, I'm Summer." At this point, I'm completely missing something that he's just pieced together. He just says, "Holy fuck," and looks like he doesn't know what to say. Eventually, he asks if he can sit down. I invite him in. He then proceeds to tell me for the past 5 years, he's thought he's been talking to me. Every picture he's ever seen of Maggie has actually been pictures of me. I'm completely dumbfounded and we don't know what to say to each other at first. So he gets out his phone and shows me proof. He has tons of pictures of me saved on his phone and went to their messages and showed me proof that she's been sending them to him. I felt and still feel completely sick to my stomach. I get out my phone and show him the real pictures of her. I tell him that maybe they could just talk when she gets off work. And he's really pissed at this point. I say maybe we should call her first and let her know that he's here. So I do that and she starts flipping out, saying she's not coming home. Tells him to leave and that she won't talk to him. He calls her and starts yelling at her over the phone. After everyone calms down, she eventually comes home. He's hurt and accusing. She's crying. I'm sitting there awkwardly. She tells him that she's still the same person he's had feelings for, and he screams at her, "No, I thought I was in love with your roommate." And that completely makes her break down, so I tell him that maybe he should leave for the night and that everyone should have their own space. He agrees, and after he leaves, she goes completely psychotic on me and starts throwing shit around the living room. Tells me she hates me. I start crying. It's a mess. I left to stay with a friend and I haven't been back, so I don't know what's going on. I feel like I have no idea who the person I'm living with is, and I feel weirdly violated. Do I move out? Do I try to call her? She hasn't even texted me once. I don't know how to deal with this situation. My girlfriend is accusing me of being gay because I didn't cheat on her. So we've been together for about 2 years now. She's always been the jealous type, but it's never bothered me because I'm not a very social person, so I never felt that she would have a reason to be jealous. She knows my schedule and I have the Life 360 app on my phone, so she knows my location at all times. I have this app because one day my father got into a car accident in a remote area and it saved his life. According to my girlfriend, women often hit on me. I really don't believe that is the case because I'm an average looking dude and don't put myself out there like that, but she insists this is the case. She's made multiple attempts to catfish me. She tried Facebook, but I won't accept a friend request or a message from someone that I don't know. She tried Instagram and it was the same. So then she tried Reddit, where I'm likely to respond to a message from a stranger. It was painfully obvious what she was trying to do. I've been using Reddit for a decade and know what the normal behavior looks like. She sent me a message like, "I saw your post and you're so funny. Do you want to hook up? I live in your city," and attached a picture of an attractive woman. I knew it was BS and just replied, "You're not fooling anyone." The rest of the day, she gave me the cold shoulder and had an attitude. When I called her out, she said, "If you were a real man, you wouldn't have even responded to that message." I handed her my phone and passcode and told her that she can search everything. She did. She gave it back to me about an hour later. At this point, I asked, "Did you find what you were looking for?" while laughing. Now she's accusing me of being gay. She didn't find any messages between me and other women. My search history is mostly about the shows I watch and recipes I want to cook. Also some medical questions about my pets. She said if I'm not seeking out other women, I must be gay. What the hell am I supposed to do? I did nothing wrong and somehow I'm still the bad guy. She told me to leave my house the day before Christmas because she doesn't want to see me. Also called her family and said that I'm gay and now her brother wants to fight me.
Sometimes when I go to the grocery store and I do a big haul, the cashier will always say something like, "Ooh, do you have a big barbecue coming up? Are you planning a big party?" And I'm like, "No, this is just how I take care of myself. This is just how I eat." And my sister judges me for it when she comes to visit. She's 20 and she's always like, "Kate, you can't just live off of fruit and cupcakes. That's no way to live life." And I'm like, "You don't understand. I'm jaded and I'm tired. And when I bend my knees, they sound like a Yule log. And my metabolism feels like the only thing I have left going for me. And I'm only going to have that a few more years. So I'm just clinging to it as hard as I can." But she's always like, "No, Kate, you need protein." That's not how she talks. She talks higher. She's always like, no, Kate, you need protein. And she's gonna hate me for this. But she's big on cooking. She's big on protein and meat. And the last time I went to her apartment, she had all these frozen meats. And I said, where are your fruits and vegetables? And she said, they're in cans. Take your pick. And I was like, no. I said, that is unacceptable. I'm going to go to the grocery store to pick up some fresh produce. You may come if you like. And so she came. And as soon as we walked through the door, there's that deli with all the fancy cheeses. And she was just staring at the cheese. And she went, I love cheese. She was looking at the cheese like I look at Chris Evans in a fall sweater. I was like, oh man, she wants to just drop that wrapping on the floor and lick that cheese. So I told her, just grab a cheese then. And she was like, really? She got so excited. She spent like 12 minutes picking the cheese. But I didn't realize how expensive the fancy deli cheese was until we got to self-checkout, which, by the way, is a scam, and I feel like I'm the only one who knows it. I've been a cashier before. Self-checkout is them tricking you into doing their job. Like, I'm not going to take a job away from a perfectly healthy 15-year-old. It used to be good because the line was shorter, but then all the old people figured out how to use self-checkout, and now it's the longest line. Something always rings up wrong, so you have to get a cashier's help anyway, and it's a scam, and it's stupid. But we went there, we rung up the cheese, and I was like, damn, this must be the Beyonce of cheeses, because it costs like roughly as much as a small island. Not like a cheap small island, but a fancy one with a mansion and a ramp for your plane. Oh, we went back to my sister's apartment. My dad was in town, so we invited him over for dinner, and my sister put her fancy cheese in the middle of the table. She was very excited, and my dad used like half the cheese on his meat and potatoes. And my first thought was, Dad does not love us anymore. He is deliberately trying to clog his arteries with cheese. He is tapping out. But my sister knows his thought process a little bit better than I do, and so she just looked at him and very calmly was like, Dad, did you think that the cheese was butter? And he went, yeah. My parents used to take my siblings and I to the beach a lot when we were really little because they were like, this is a great way for our children to become both tired and educated, because we would explore the tide pools and stuff, and we'd find all kinds of new marine life. Like one time we heard my older brother yell, look what I found, and we looked out into the water and he'd waded out a little bit and he was holding up a jellyfish in his hand. And obviously my parents freaked out and they scooped him out of the water and they separated him from the jellyfish. And I was the younger sister. I was like, well, I should also get to hold the jellyfish if he got to hold the jellyfish. And they said no. And I said, why not? And they said, because you could die from holding a jellyfish. And I was like, no, because he'd die first, so we'd know to take me to the emergency room. It'll be fine. Let me hold the jellyfish. They said no. I was angry. I was like, I have the worst parents in the world for not letting me hold the wild, venomous ocean alien that my brother found, and he got to hold it. He was totally fine, by the way. I don't know if it was one of those jellyfish that just doesn't have much sting to it, or if it had been dead for a really, really long time, but my brother was fine. My parents also implemented this rule that we weren't allowed to bring home any stones or shells from the beach because we needed to leave them behind so everyone who passed through the beach could see how pretty they were, which I still actually believe to be pretty true depending on who owns the beach, what my relationship is to it. Shells. Yeah. So we weren't allowed to bring them home, but I'm pretty sure my parents did that because they didn't want us emptying out the entire beach from our pockets into the house. But sometimes if we found something we really, really liked, we would sneak it. Like one time I found this giant shell. It was technically a Dungeness crab, and it was dead, and it was missing a leg. And here's what my little brain thought when I found this dead crab. If you don't know what a Dungeness crab is, it is the kind of crab you'd see like on a plate at a restaurant. It's the medium-sized eating crab. And I thought, you know, in the tide pools, there are the hermit crab dudes, right? And they leave their shells behind and you can pick up the shells and they're empty. And I thought that because this was also a crab, that it had left the shell behind. I didn't understand that I was collecting a dead animal. And I hid it under my coat and I took it home and I put him in a shoebox and I hid the shoebox in the top shelf of my closet. And sometimes I would take the box down from the closet and just look at my super cool shell. And my mom was constantly coming into my room and saying, what stinks in here? And I didn't understand that the crab was what was smelling. I didn't even notice the smell myself. And she'd always walk in and she would like try to find it and search the room. And one day she walked into my room and she said, I swear it smells like you have a dead animal in here or a fish or something. And I said, well, I kind of have a fish. And she said, what? And I got my shoebox down and I showed her my cool shell. And she explained to me that I'd brought home a dead animal and put it in my closet.